Syria court sentences ousted leader to death. Heart of the matter today is on the increase in pay rise for military personnel, while feature is on Iluaje. My name is Olubukola Enimola, and with me today is
Feyishara Owomoyela. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on today's edition of the program. Do remember that you can listen to us on live stream www.radionigeriaibadan.gov.ng or watch us live on Facebook at Premier FM 93.5. As rainy season continues, let us keep warm to prevent cold. Now, the details. Voter apathy has become a growing concern since the return of democracy in May 1999, despite the initial optimism that followed the return of democratic rule. Stakeholders observed that when people failed to participate in elections, it encouraged the emergence of corrupt leadership and bad governance, leading to public mistrust in the electoral process. In the special report, our correspondent Adejoke Adebisi examined the causes of voter apathy and explored measures that can encourage greater participation in the forthcoming election in Osun State.
Elections are occasions for people to have a say in how they are governed and who holds political power. Voters' turnout over the years has, however, witnessed a significant decline, a situation which poses a fundamental threat to the legitimacy and consolidation of the nation's democracy. Speaking with Radio Nigeria, a political analyst, Dr. Adedapo Adetoye, who identified electoral malpractice such as vote buying, result falsification, and voter suppression as some of the causes of voter apathy in Osun State, stressed the need for civil society organizations, government agencies, community leaders, and religious leaders to intensify sensitization to restore public confidence in the process.
Stress of going to the polling booths, waiting in a queue before voting, the fear of votes not counting at the end of the day after spending so much time.
Dr. Adetoye also maintained that it was imperative for the electoral body to adopt e-voting to enable Nigerians in the diaspora to participate in elections. Corroborating his view, a businessman, Mr. Akanbi Omojola, who cited weak security and activities of political talks as the reasons he avoids going to polling booths during elections, said the atmosphere of intimidation discourages many voters from exercising their franchise.
You know, this very country, Nigeria, the way they are handling their vote is not as it ought to be. Like being paid before casting any form of vote, which is supposed not to be so. If I thought it is my own personal ambition, if I want, I will do it willingly, not that they will impose me or they will bribe me before I cast my vote.
Mr. Omojola observed that it is important not just to vote, but also to hold the elected officials accountable and even influence them by offering suggestions. Also speaking, a teacher, Mrs. Mosumola Adeniji, said that a large number of Nigerians have lost trust in Nigeria's elections due to the outcome of previous elections and politician desperation, which she described as nothing to write home about.
The promises that were made during the campaigns must be brought to reality by the people voted for. This will encourage people to be available to vote at any time that they are required of.
Mrs. Adeniji stressed the need to educate citizens that while national issues must be addressed, participating in local elections is a way to effect needed change in their communities. In Ilesha, Adejoke Adebisi, Radio Nigeria.
As Osun State prepares for another governorship election, stakeholders have expressed worry with the alarming rate of violence, intimidation, and the activities of political thugs and cultists in some parts of the state. Also, concerns have been raised on the need for adequate security to protect the electorate and achieve a peaceful and credible election. In this report, our correspondent Mujisola Oladele assesses the situation and the preparedness of major actors.
A successful election can only be achieved under a peaceful atmosphere where the required security arrangements are in place, with voters being able to exercise their franchise without fear of intimidation. According to reports, about 44 election-related violent incidents have occurred across Osun State between October 2023 and June 2026, resulting in 13 recorded fatalities, destruction of property, and heightened fear and tension among residents. The most tragic of the alleged politically motivated killings resulted in the death of a 14-year-old boy, Ezekiel Olakpade, on 21st June in Ilobu, Irekpodun local government area of the state, who was killed by stray bullets fired by some political thugs in his mother's shop. Also recently, the Osun State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Mrs. Oluwatoyin Babalola, at a public engagement, identified 385 volatile flashpoints and 200 difficult-to-access terrains across the 30 local government areas of the state. Speaking with Radio Nigeria on the security preparations for the forthcoming governorship election, the Assistant Inspector General of Police, AIG Zone 11, Mr. Olabode Fashuba, assured residents of adequate security, noting that measures had been put in place to guarantee a peaceful environment for voters. He maintained that its personnel had been well trained, equipped, and would be deployed to strategic locations before, during, and after the election.
Being the leading organization in internal security, police will be neutral. That I should assure you that we will be neutral. No way that police will be accused that we are siding one party or the other.
Mr. Fashuba warned against any attempts to disrupt the electoral process, stressing that security operatives would respond decisively to electoral offences. In their reactions, the state chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, Reverend John Adeleke, and the representative League of Imams and Afars for Osun State, Imam Abdul Salam Abioye, stressed the need for the security operatives to act professionally, neutrally, and transparently, and avoid excessive force or conduct that could deepen community distrust.
The Lord will help our security men. I think all the agencies should be involved, both the military, the police, and other paramilitary. Every one of them should try to be neutral without any partiality to any party.
The message is that violence never attracts anything that will favor us. We should maintain peace and order in Osun State before, during, and after the election.
While calling on residents to maintain peace, they though emphasized the need to seek God's intervention for the success of the governorship election. Also speaking, the representative of civil society groups and in non-governmental organizations NGO, Mr. Bukola Idowu and Ms. Lola Way, called on security agencies to deploy intelligence-led preventive and proportionate security measures in the identified hotspots, especially locations with repeated incidents of shootings and property destruction.
Elections are not war, they are civic processes through which citizens freely choose their leaders, debate policies, choices, and renew democratic legitimacy. No political ambition, party interest, or electoral calculation is worth the life, dignity, safety, or peace of any citizen.
And it is what all we want to do is vote. There's no need for us to fight. There's no need to shed the blood of anybody. Where there's violence, women, the vulnerable groups will be disenfranchised.
Speaking under the condition of anonymity, a senior army personnel in Ede, Osun State, said the army is awaiting directives from the Defense Headquarters Abuja as regards the poll. He explained that some of its personnel have participated in engagement with the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and other relevant stakeholders on how to achieve a peaceful election. In Oshogbo, Mojisola Oladele, Radio Nigeria.
Staying in Osun State, the role of traditional and religious leaders as integral institutions whose dominance is key at maintaining peace in the society cannot be underrated. In this report, Abiodun Adeoye takes a look at the expected role of traditional and religious leaders in achieving a peaceful election in the state.
The electoral atmosphere in Osun State is already saturated with campaigns and moves by political parties to ensure victory. One of such efforts is visits by political parties and candidates to traditional rulers and religious leaders for consultation, royal blessing, and advocacy. Speaking on their roles as mediators, a public commentator, Mr. Segun Lano, reminded traditional and religious leaders of their noble and esteemed position, appealing to them to make good use of this to ensure peace and credible poll in Osun State. He called them to sensitize their subjects and followers on the need to look into manifestos before deciding who to vote for. Mr. Lano observed that since traditional and religious leaders will have their subjects and followers supporting different flag bearers in the election, it becomes imperative for them to maintain neutrality.
All of us have political sentiments, no doubt, but religious leaders and traditional rulers must rise above those sentiments and promote peaceful conduct.
Also commenting, the Southwest Zonal Director of the National Orientation Agency, NOAA, Mr. Kehinde Okunkwade, harped on the enormous power of traditional rulers to influence policy behavior among their subjects, calling on them to preach against voter apathy, electoral violence, and vote trading.
They are custodians of culture. They are our fathers, they are our mothers in the villages and the centers. They know people whom are good to us, who can assist us, and they know those people whom they need to caution when they need to caution them.
Also speaking, the chairman of Osun State Christian Association of Nigeria, OSCAN, Reverend Don Adeleke, and an Islamic cleric, Afat Ajudin Oyewole, urged religious leaders and traditional rulers to remain neutral and preach peace to their people before, during, and after the election, emphasizing that nothing could be achieved in an atmosphere of rancor and political disturbance. They tasked them to hold the electorate to rise above intimidation and go out to exercise their franchise and vote according to their conscience.
If we preach peace and believe in peace, there will be peace. Then I even encourage every Oba in their palace to speak about peace. Then I encourage every Christian to be out to cast their vote. Don't be intimidated by anybody. Then don't sell your conscience.
Election will come and gone, but the family and friendship remains forever. So they should not allow this upcoming gubernatorial election in Osun State to cause everlasting enemy among the political chieftains and the candidates.
Reverend Adeleke, who stressed the efficacy of prayer, called on religious leaders in the state not to relent in their prayers for peaceful and successful election. In Osogbo, Abiodun Adeoye, Radio Nigeria.
Meanwhile, residents of Osun State have been urged to shun any act capable of disrupting the smooth and peaceful conduct of this Saturday's off-cycle governorship election. The head of National Orientation Agency NOA, Community Orientation and Mobilization Officer Como, Ejigbo Local Government Area, Mr. Salahuddin Wahid, gave the advice in an interview with Radio Nigeria in Oku-Oyo State. Mr. Wahid said the agency had carried out extensive sensitization campaigns among various groups, associations, unions, worship centers, and motor parks on the need to embrace peace before, during, and after the election. He also urged parents to caution their children against allowing themselves to be used as political thugs, noting that some politicians keep their own children abroad while recruiting other people's children to engage in violence. Mr. Wahid also appealed to legible voters to reject vote buying and cast their votes according to their conscience rather than seeking gratification from politicians.
In a related development, residents across Osun State have been urged to vote for Governor Ademola Adeleke in the August 15 governorship election in recognition of his achievements in various sectors. A chieftain of the Accord Party, Chief Peter Ogundeji, popularly known as Akpata, made the call in Ejigbo while distributing spray machines and agrochemicals to over 700 farmers drawn from towns and villages in Osun West Senatorial District. Chief Ogundeji said Governor Adeleke had performed creditably well in his first term, stressing that his re-election would ensure continuity in governance and consolidate his achievements. The Accord Party chieftain said the empowerment was aimed at boosting food production and improving the livelihoods of farmers. He urged the beneficiaries to make judicious use of the sprayer machines and agrochemicals to increase their farm yields. In his remarks, the Director of Administration, Akpata Cares Foundation, Mr. Ibitayo Alade, advised the beneficiaries not to sell the farm inputs but use them on their crops to ensure a bumper harvest. Also speaking, the Commissioner for Lands and Physical Planning, Mr. George Alabi, and the Special Advisor to the Governor on Agriculture, Mr. Niro Atidade, commended Chief Ogundeji for the gesture and urged the people of Osun State to support Governor Adeleke's re-election. Some of the beneficiaries, Mr. Ajayi Matthew, Idris Tajuddin, Isiaka Razak, and Olaniyan Timothy, expressed appreciation to Chief Ogundeji for the empowerment and promised to support Governor Adeleke's re-election in next Saturday's governorship election. It will be recalled that Chief Peter Ogundeji on Monday empowered over 500 people selected from Osun West Senatorial District with various working tools, including industrial freezers, dryers, motorcycles, sewing machines, grinding machines, and industrial shoemaking machine and clippers, among others.
Oyo State Governor Engineer Seyi Makinde has assured residents that he would not be a godfather to his successor to avoid being an obstacle to new leadership. Governor Makinde gave the assurance while hosting Muslim community on a Hijrah 1448 luncheon held at Banquet Hall, Government House, Agodi, Ibadan. The governor, who said leadership must be about service, not control, urged citizens, especially Muslim communities, to demand accountability and programs that would promote development, peace and prosperity from people jostling for political office in the state. He also challenged his political opponents to tell the people of Oyo State what they intend to do if elected, rather than attempting to discredit the achievements of his administration. The governor said his administration would continue to prioritize decisions that benefit the state until the end of his tenure, while appreciating the people for their support in the last 7 years.
A rising Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, has warned members of the public against fake and AI-generated employment letters being circulated in the name of the commission. The commission also cautioned Nigerians against fraudsters allegedly demanding money from unsuspecting members of the public under the guise of helping them secure jobs at the NUPRC. The warning was contained in a statement issued by the NUPRC Head of Media and Corporate Communications, Eniola Akinkuotu. The statement says the commission has received reports of fake employment letters bearing the names of people unknown to the organization.
This is the world today, the stories that made the headlines. Stakeholders have expressed concerns over Osun election. Oil regulator raised alarm over fake employment letters is still to come in the news. Missiles set oil plant ablaze in Libya, and Syria court sentences ousted leader to death.
Glad to know you're still with us. It's the Tuesday edition of the News on the World Today from the Southwest Network of Radio Nigeria. We move to the foreign scenes and the rest of the package. Libyan emergency services have been battling to contain a huge blaze at a major oil plant after it was targeted by unknown attackers. The Zawiya refinery west of the capital Tripoli was hit in a drone strike. The National Oil Corporation, NOC, said a tank containing about 4.5 million liters of fuel was directly hit, triggering a huge fire that caused it to collapse. Report says NOC was considering suspending operations if the attacks continued.
A Syrian court has sentenced ousted dictator Bashar al-Assad to death in absentia after convicting him of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity during the country's civil war. Assad fled from Damascus to Moscow with his family after his regime was overthrown in December 2024, ending his family's 5-decade grip on power. In the same case, the court also sentenced to death Alif Majid, Assad's cousin and former head of political security in southern Syria's Darak province. He appeared inside the cage in the courtroom as the judge read out his sentence.
Heart of the Matter today examines the increase in pay rise for military personnel. It is written by Fauzia Kashim of our Current Affairs Unit.
Last week, the federal government increased the salaries of the armed forces personnel between 30% and 80%. According to the presidency, officers above the rank of colonel, including brigadier generals, major generals, lieutenant generals, and generals, will receive a 30% salary increase in the new pay package. Personnel from the rank of colonel down to warrant officer will enjoy a 50% increase, while those from private to staff sergeant will receive an 80% pay rise. It is heartwarming that President Tinubu is walking the talk to boost the welfare of Nigeria's military personnel, as this is the second enhancement of the military salaries within the past month. Before the present pay rise, past leaders paid little value on national security and on the lives of the men and women who defend the nation, as reflected in the miserly salaries paid to soldiers. For instance, a Nigerian soldier reportedly earned 49,000 naira monthly before the federal government raised the baseline salary to 100,000 naira. Countries that value their armed forces display it in both words and deeds. For instance, former President of the United States Barack Obama regularly reached out to troops on active duty through phone calls, visits to military bases, and video messages to boost their morale and express the country's gratitude. This is also backed up by the United States with tangible remuneration, as recruits reportedly receive a basic monthly salary of about $2,226 in addition to combat hazard pay ranging from $225 to $675 for deployment in active war zones. That is how a nation should reward those who risk their lives to ensure its territorial safety. Beyond poor remuneration, corruption has also deprived Nigerian soldiers of resources meant for their welfare and operational effectiveness. For instance, in 2015, former Chief of the Air Staff Alex Bade was arraigned by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) for allegedly laundering over 3 billion naira belonging to the Nigerian Air Force. Inasmuch as a review had become really imperative, inflation has severely eroded the value of the 70,000 naira national minimum wage approved in July 2024. It is essential that soldiers' salaries need to be reviewed periodically to reflect prevailing economic realities rather than remain static while living costs increase. The President must ensure that soldiers are supplied with modern equipment, adequate logistics, intelligence support, and continuous training and retraining to enhance operational effectiveness. One commendable welfare measure is that members of the armed forces are exempt from the standard contributory pension scheme. Instead of deducting 8.0% from their salaries, the federal government bears the entire 18% pension contribution. Soldiers attached to civilians must be withdrawn and redeployed to their statutory military responsibilities after receiving appropriate training for seamless absorption into operational units. President Bola Tinubu took the bold step by establishing 4 new army divisions and approving the recruitment of 28,000 additional personnel, as the new salary structure will attract more intakes. The recruitment should be well coordinated and transparent to deter infiltration by terrorists who might be pretending that they are good citizens but have ulterior motives.
And that script on the increase in pay rise for military personnel was written by Fauzia Kashim of our Current Affairs Unit, and it was delivered by Emilia Ojemudia.
And now to feature, there is a town in Oyo State that derives its name from House of Witches. For more on this name, let's join Oluwakemi Ayodokun.
Names, either of a person or a town in Yoruba land, are loaded with meanings that are usually not too far-fetched. Therefore, Iluaje, a town in Afije local government area, Oyo State, is no exception considering the origin of the name, literally translated Town of Witches. Iluaje indigenes were traditionally Ifa worshippers. just like one of their ancestors. Baale Olubiyo, before the advent of Islam and Christian religions, Baale Olubiyo was a brave herbalist, a major priest of Ifa Oracle who reigned when the town was known as Iluaje during the reign of Alaafin Oluewu, 1818 to 1820. One of Alaafin's princes got missing, and all Ifa priests, far and near, were invited to consult Ifa Oracle to know his whereabouts. Baale Olubiyo, who was assigned a special duty to consult his Ifa Oracle, prophesied that the missing prince would be found within 7 days if the necessary rituals were performed. Olubiyo's prophecy surprised Alaafin Oluewu when the missing prince came back home on the 7th day. The monarch consequently gave the appellation Adifa Shebiaje, that is, someone whose wizardry in Ifa divination could be likened to that of witches. Consequently, the town's name changed from Iluaje to Iluaje. Today, many of the indigenes prefer Iluaje, town of wealth, to Iluaje, town of witches, for obvious reasons.
That feature on Iluaje was written by Kayode Oguntona.
Now to end the news and the world today from the stable of Radio Nigeria. A quick look at the major items. Stakeholders have expressed concern about Osun governorship election slated for this Saturday. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has warned members of the public against fake and AI-generated employment letters being circulated in the name of the commission. From the foreign scenes, we reported the Libyan emergency services have been battling to contain a huge blaze at a major oil plant after it was targeted by unknown attackers, and the Syrian court sentenced ousted dictator Bashar al-Assad to death in absentia after convicting him of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity during the country's civil war.
Well, that's it on The World Today. Do join us tomorrow for a fresh edition of the program. Rotimi Famakin edited. My name is Olubukola Enimola. Thanking you for your time and for my colleague.
Feyi Shara Owomoyela, not forgetting the studio manager, and Liliane Bomo for the assistance.
The studio manager, Shola Obidanse.